we have our final installment of the top 10 in a given position in NFL history, and we are doing special teams players. Now, to be clear, we are only doing kick return / punt return, punters, and kickers, primarily because we don't want to be rating gunners because those are just so hard to grade. But before we get into the video, I want to take a second to ask you to please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, really helps us out. If you're a fan of the NFL, you'll love this channel as we release multiple NFL-related videos every Tuesday and Friday all year long. Now, let's get back to the video. Starting out at number 10, we have Josh Cribbs, kick and punt returner for the Cleveland Browns, as well as one season with the Indianapolis Colts and New York Jets. But let's be real, we all know Cribbs for his time with the Browns. Cribbs played with the Browns from 2005 to 2012, and in that time he made it to 3 Pro Bowls and made 2 All-Pro teams while putting up 8 kick return touchdowns, good enough for tied for second all-time in NFL history, along with another 3 punt return touchdowns, bringing his total return touchdowns to 11, good enough to be 5th all-time in NFL history for kick and punt return touchdowns. This guy was a human highlight reel, one of the best return men in one of the best return men eras in NFL history, that being the mid-2000s. And so Josh Cribbs just sneaks in this top 10 list at number 10, thanks to his elite play as a kick and punt returner. At number 9, we have Mr. Automatic himself, Justin Tucker, who is one of the greatest kickers in history and is still going on his NFL journey. During Tucker's NFL career thus far, he has 8 All-Pro appearances as well as 7 Pro Bowl appearances. He has cleared 90% field goal percentage over 6 times in his career and has had 100% extra point percentage 7 times in his NFL career. This guy has over 90% career for field goals and has the NFL record in the longest field goal ever, being 66 yards to beat the Detroit Lions. My Detroit Lions, I'm still mad about that, but I can acknowledge it was still pretty impressive. Either way, Justin Tucker has been the best kicker for the past decade plus in the NFL and absolutely belongs here in the top 10 at number 9 and could become higher depending on how the latter half of his career goes. At number 8, we have Oakland Raiders punter Shane Lechler, and Lechler was an absolute unit of a punter during his time in the NFL. During Lechler's NFL career, he made it to 9 All-Pro teams and 7 Pro Bowl teams, which is absolutely incredible in its own right. He, on 5 separate occasions, led the NFL in punt yards per attempt and led the NFL in total punt yards 3 times. As well, beyond that, he had a singular punt that went 80 yards. That's just insane. Like, obviously that had some benefit of bouncing, etc., but come on, 80 yards net on a punt would literally be like getting a touchback from your own end zone. That's stupid. That's insane. Shane Lechler had the leg of a god and absolutely belongs here at number 8 on this list. At number 7, we have Gary Anderson, and I'm sorry, Vikings fans, just wait a little bit. We'll be done with him, and you can move on from your 1998 heartbreak. But Gary Anderson, during his NFL career, was an absolutely stellar kicker. He had 2 All-Pro appearances and 4 Pro Bowl appearances, but this guy had longevity. He was one of the most automatic kickers during a time when kicking was a lot less automatic than it is in modern day. And this is what makes him a top 10 all-time player. I think the most heartbreaking thing about Gary Anderson is the 98 season. Again, sorry Vikings fans, not trying to rub it in, just trying to tell the story. In the 1998 season, Gary Anderson was 35 for 35 on field goals and 59 for 59 on extra points. He did not miss a single kick. That is 94 successful kicks with no unsuccessful kicks. That's incredibly accurate for a kicker of any era, especially in 1998. But in the infamous NFC Championship game, this All-Pro first team hadn't missed a kick all year kicker missed a kick that would have put the dominant 98 Vikings into the Super Bowl. I mean, that's the moment we all remember Gary Anderson for, but I'm going to give him some credit. He still belongs here at number 7 in our top 10 all-time special teams players, in spite that sadness. At number 6, we have Gale Sayers, and many of you might know that Gale Sayers was actually a really good running back, but he still deserves the credit as an excellent special teamer on top of his abilities as a running back. Sayers only played 7 seasons in the NFL, but really it was only 5. Given his final 2 seasons, there was only a total of 4 games played. And I mean, he wasn't a kicker punt returner in those final 2 seasons, so we don't count that for this list. Either way, in those 5 seasons in the NFL, Gale Sayers had 8 kick and punt return touchdowns. That's an absolutely incredible rate that rivals literally anybody else on this list. And if he had the longevity of anybody else later on this list, he would absolutely be higher. Along with that, he still to this day holds the NFL record for the most yards per kick return at 30.6 yards per return. Imagine that. That would literally make touchbacks prior to the 2024 season, when it's being completely redone for kicks, completely pointless for teams, because Gale Sayers could just return past the touchback line on average almost every time. In his first 3 seasons in the NFL, Gale Sayers led the NFL in all-purpose yards, and in his 3rd season in the NFL, his kick return average was 37.7 yards per kick return. That's how good this guy was in special teams. And so in spite the shortness of his career, he still belongs here at number 6 on our all-time list. At number 5, we have another kick and punt return specialist, Brian Mitchell. Brian Mitchell made it to 3 All-Pro teams during his career, but what he's best known for is his ability to just rack up all-purpose yards. This guy has over 23,000 all-purpose yards, good enough to make him 2nd all-time in that category, only behind the great Jerry Rice. I mean, come on, Jerry Rice had nearly 20,000 receiving yards alone. Of course he's number 1 all-time, but Brian Mitchell's still incredibly high up there on this list, given the fact that he only had about 3,000 rushing and receiving yards combined, and the rest was all kick and punt return, which is what he was always known for during his time in the NFL. Beyond that, Brian Mitchell put up 13 combined kick and punt return touchdowns, good enough to be tied for 4th all-time in that category. And so the fact that he's 2nd all-time in all-purpose yards, 1st among kick and punt returners, and tied for 3rd in total touchdowns for kick and punt returners, yeah, I think it's pretty clear this guy belongs at number 5 on this list. I don't think it's that debatable. At number 4, we have Morten Andersen, and if longevity is the name of the game, then Morten Andersen has that. His first season of his NFL career, 1982. His last season of NFL career, 2007. This guy had literally the NFL career that is longer than a college graduate. That's insane. This guy's goal in the NFL was to make it to playing at 50 years old. He ended up retiring at the age of 48, but I mean, come on, that's pretty close to 50. I give him some credit still. Anderson's career numbers may not jump off the page as someone like Justin Tucker's does in terms of percentages, but the fact that he was playing in an era where kickers weren't making that high a percentage of their field goals, and the fact that he was able to put up 5 All-Pro teams and 7 Pro Bowls shows just how effective a kicker he was compared to the rest of his contemporaries. And he was really good towards the latter end of his career, where he was hitting well into the high 80s in terms of field goal percentage, well into his 40s. That's pretty insane. And so just the fact that this guy was highly productive for such a long stretch of his career, you gotta put him as high as number 4, because ain't nobody else doing this. At number 3, we have Ray Guy, and the highest compliment you can give for Ray Guy is that as a punter, he was selected in the 1st round and isn't considered to be a bust. I mean, think about it in modern day senses. If you were to select a punter in the 1st round, every single fan and other GM would laugh you out of the room. Punters at highest will go in the day 3 of the draft. This guy went in round 1 and was so good that nobody questions the pick in hindsight. Everyone says, yeah, 1st round pick, 23rd overall on a punter like Ray Guy, probably worth it. That should tell you enough about how dominant this guy was. He made it to 4 All-Pro teams, 7 Pro Bowls during his NFL career, and absolutely changed the way that punters play. I'm actually a big proponent of punters. I think they're one of the most underrated positions in the NFL because of how valuable field position is in terms of winning and losing football games. And Ray Guy was an absolute unit of a coffin corner punter who could just pin the other team back deep in their end as much as he needed and wanted to. That's what makes Ray Guy such a great player. That's what makes him one of the few punters of all time that was worthy of a 1st round draft stock. And so yeah, Ray Guy at 3 makes total sense to me. At number 2, we have Devin Hester, far and away the NFL's leader in kick return and punt return touchdowns combined with 19 total, well beyond the 14 total for the second place person on this list. I think the craziest part about Devin Hester is that he had 11 of those touchdowns in just his first 2 seasons in the NFL, prior to the Bears trying to make him a wide receiver and deploying him a little less frequently in the kick return and punt return games. But when this guy was a pure kick and punt returner in the NFL, there was nobody even close to him in that position in the NFL, not just at the time, but in history. Imagine if you just extrapolated those stats for 2 more years. He'd have 22 touchdowns. That would be 3 more than he had throughout his entirety of his career. All told, Devin Hester was able to make it to 4 Pro Bowl teams and 4 All-Pro teams. He's easily the greatest kick return and punt returner of all time, and I don't think it's questioned, which is why he goes down at number 2 on this list. And at number 1, we have Adam Vinatieri, and it's for one word and one word only that he comes in at number 1, clutch. I mean, if you look at the total statistics of this guy, it's not that impressive. Never hit a 60-yard field goal in his career. Sub 84% field goal percentage on his career. He had a decent but not amazing extra point record with about 97%. But what makes Adam Vinatieri so good is the fact that on 3 separate occasions with the Patriots in a 4-year span, he was the reason this team won the Super Bowl. He hit clutch kick after clutch kick after clutch kick for the New England Patriots prior to moving on to the Indianapolis Colts and doing the same for them. Throughout his career, he only made it to 3 Pro Bowls and 3 All-Pro teams, but his longevity coupled with that one word, clutch, is why this guy has to go down as number 1 all-time special teams player because of how impactful he was to his teams on winning Super Bowls. I mean, come on, 4 Super Bowls that this guy was clearly a dominant factor in? Yeah, he's number 1. But that's it for our all-time special teams players. Thank you for joining in for this series. Moving forward, we are going to be starting to do an NFL season preview. You don't want to miss that. There's going to be some other videos sprinkled in between, but once that preview is done, we'll basically be at the start of the NFL season, and oh boy, I can't wait. Either way, if you like this video, leave a comment down below, leave a like as well, help us out, help us grow. We'll see you all next time. Peace!